Hi, welcome to this event with Andy Harkness. Andy is an award-winning artist who has worked on Moana, Frozen, and Wreck-It Ralph, among other movies. After 25 years at Disney, he recently moved to Sony Pictures Animation, where he's a visual development artist. Andy's first picture book, Bug Zoo, was published by Disney as an artist showcase book in 2016. But today he's going to talk to you about Wolfboy, which is a really fun book about Wolfboy, who's so hungry he starts hunting for rabbits. What's going to happen to those rabbits? You'll have to watch the video to find out, and make sure you pay attention to how Andy made this book because it's really cool. We hope you enjoy this event.
Hi, my name is Andy Harkness, and I'm here today to talk about Wolfboy, which is my brand new book through Bloomsbury Publishing. And I'm going to read it to you, as well as talk about a little bit about the process of what went into making this book, which began about 16 years ago. So I have a fun little slideshow that I'm going to show you guys, and I'm going to read the story to you. My very first dream of what I wanted to do in this life, in this world, was to write and illustrate children's books. And it started in second grade when I saw Where the Wild Things Are for the very first time in our school library, and fell in love with it and just got lost in the illustrations and the texture. And to me, they were photoreal almost. They really came to life in my head. And that's what I wanted to do since I was 7 years old. And in college, I went to an art school in Columbus, Ohio. Disney came and they presented some clips of an upcoming movie called Lion King. So this was about 20 something years ago. And I thought, what an interesting job this might be. And a few years later, I was working for Disney, and I did work on the very tail end of Lion King. I drew one leaf, just one little leaf, but I was so excited about that leaf. And I've worked on Pocahontas and almost all the movies all the way up until Moana, which is what I art directed on Moana. And now I'm working at Sony. We're just wrapping up another movie there called Vivo. So that's my day job. It's what I love. But all along, my passion for children's books was bubbling, and these ideas were brewing. And in 2016, I published my very first book. It's back behind me there, called Bug Zoo. And that talks about my another very first passion, which was catching bugs and collecting bugs. But another story was percolating in my brain, and it started years ago, really when I was a kid, about a little werewolf. I love scary movies, and my dad took me to lots of scary movies. So without further ado, I am going to show you, it's a PDF, and we're going to walk it through. And this is the making of Wolfboy and how it came to be. Okay, so Wolfboy. These are a few of the illustrations. This is underneath the jacket cover. So if you take the cover off, this is what's underneath. Not everyone knows that, so a little secret. And this is one of the illustrations as well. And he is gobbling all of the moonberries he can find at the end of the story. So the making of Wolfboy. It all started in 1981. So I mentioned before, my dad, he loved libraries. And every Sunday we would go to the library to read and check out books, but also they had movie night at the library, and they always show old movies. And one night they showed The Wolfman. And it wasn't just the lighting that was interesting. It was the subject matter. It was creepy. Everything was very theatrical. And even as a little kid, I fell in love with it. And on the walk home that night, it was actually a full moon. And I spent the entire walk trying to scare my sister on the walk home. Now, 25 years later, I did my very first sketches for Wolfboy. And I had no idea what the story was going to be. These just popped in my head at the time. But as you can see, the lighting was there, the moodiness was there. And then nothing for about 6 years. 6 years later, this happened. My two boys. So my oldest one, Ben, there on the left, my youngest, Eddie. And my wife and I we saw this incredible transformation happen with our children when they were hungry. If we were even 10 minutes late with dinner, they would begin to transform into, from our little angels into little monsters, literally overnight, in a minute. And we love them just the same. But I thought it was a very interesting observation. They basically became this. When that idea began to really formulate in my head for what Wolfboy could be, at the time I was working on Moana and building a lot of the environments in clay. I thought, how fun might it be to design and build these books in clay as well. So this is the very first take of Wolfboy. The story got sold, and I started to do a lot of sketches and drawings, and this is one of the very first illustrations that was done. So it was all done in clay and then painted over in Photoshop. And this is the final design for Wolfboy here. So the making of an illustration. So how does it get from the idea in my head to that final illustration on the page? Starts with a sketch, a very, very rough sketch. And I'm just thinking big shapes, fun big shapes. That sketch is then projected down onto a piece of glass. And on top of the glass, I begin to sculpt. This is just gives you an idea of, this is one of the sculptures. I did this one about 6 times before it was right. But it gives you an idea of the scale of some of the pieces. And this is a little video, click to activate, that shows kind of the process here. This was the very last few marks on the very last sculpt of the book. And this is the illustration that goes under the hardcover. Just shows you all the detail involved. And another one, which I think is kind of fun. This was for a giveaway I did. And it's sped up because it takes a little bit longer than this to do. But I do as much as I can with my hands, just so everything feels very tangible, and just using 1 or 2 little tools for the final details. Now these I hand painted because they were gifts. I didn't do that in the book. So here's the sculpt now starting to come to life. And then it's photographed. I set it up where light can hit it. And this is the fun part about clay, because you can move the sculpt around in the sunlight or a stage light and get it to where it looks just right, and then photograph that. And you get all this stuff for free in the illustration, all this depth and texture for free. And this is the final illustration here. So that is how I made the book. And without further ado, I am now going to read the book. Okay, are you guys ready? All right, Wolfboy. And here he is chasing the rabbits. And if you notice at the top of the page are little cocoons. I told you before I love bugs, so I had to put something of bugs in this book somewhere, and they're hiding up there in the trees. Wolfboy. From my family, Kelly, Benjamin, and Edward, and from my high school art teacher, Miss Elam. The moon was full. Wolfboy stomped beneath the shadowy trees. He was hungry. Rabbits, rabbits, where are you? He howled. But the rabbits were nowhere to be found. Wolfboy splashed across the murky creek. He was hungry and huffy. Rabbits, rabbits, where are you? Wolfboy climbed up the creaky old oak. He was hungry and huffy and drooly. He needed rabbits. Rabbits, rabbits, where are you? Wolfboy slogged through the soggy bog. He was hungry and huffy and drooly and growly. Rabbits, rabbits, where are you? Wolfboy leaped across the steep ravine and marched into Moonberry Meadow. He was hungry and huffy and drooly and growly and fussy. Rabbits, rabbits, where are you? He howled. But the rabbits were nowhere to be found. Wolfboy yowled and growled. He clumped and trumped. I don't need you anyway, rabbits, he roared. Suddenly, there was a rustle of grass. Wolfboy froze. A twig snapped. Wolfboy's eyes sharpened. Then he saw two long ears, a furry foot, and a cottony tail. Wolfboy crouched low. One by one, little rabbits hopped out of the shadows. Wolfboy opened his big, snarling snout. He was drooly and growly and fussy. Rabbits, where have you been? You're late for our feast. Oh, Wolfboy, the rabbits playfully said. We made you a moonberry pie. Wolfboy gulped. Then he crunched and munched and gobbled and gulped. Rabbits, I was just so hungry and huffy and drooly and growly and fussy. And don't forget Howly, the rabbit said. But now I am happy. And there he is. He's got all his moonberries, and there are the moths that have hatched. And if you notice, there are leaves on the trees as well. So indicates a little season change. So that is my book. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So there are a few questions that I'm always asked about this book. And one is about the design of Wolfboy. How did he come to be? Because he doesn't really, if you think about a wolf, does that look like a wolf? I don't know. So that's a very, very good question. So both of my parents are scientists. My dad's a veterinarian. My mom's a microbiologist, and I love science. I love learning about different things, especially nature. So there are all these rules of what things have to be, or what we think of as a wolf. And, what comes to mind are a lot of fur, the growly. They can also be very, very cute. They're always eating. All these things come to mind. And then there are werewolves as well, which are a kind of exaggerated version of a wolf. So they're even hungrier and growlier and angrier and everything. And there's a transformation. So when it comes to character design, I think this has really helped me being in animation. A lot of the trick to character design is to think of the feeling and the personality of that character. How do you visualize a personality on screen? If you look at me, would you say I'm happy or mad or grumpy if my face is just like this? It's kind of hard to tell. But, if I had big pointy ears and my eyebrows were really, really low and I had a growling mouth, big orange eyes. So these are all things that went into visualizing what Wolfboy could be. I wanted him to have big ears and just a big, giant, pointy ears and big eyes so you can see in the night. And that was very important. When it comes to blue, it's as simple as I love the color blue. I really do. And I knew I wanted the backgrounds to be brown and monochromatic, which means everything is in the same color palette in the background. Blue just pops beautifully off of brown. And that's as simple as that. And yellow is the complement of blue. So the rabbits are yellow, the moon is yellow, moonberries are yellow. And that's kind of when it went into the design and the color theory of Wolfboy. The other thing is why clay? Why do I use clay for this book? And it didn't happen overnight. There's not really an easy answer for that. In fact, my very first attempt at clay was in high school, and the clay pot that I made blew up in the kiln. And so for years, I said, I love all types of art, but not clay. That's not for me. And I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, I started to work on Moana. And I was designing, and I was in charge of the overall color, but also location design. And I thought, what a fun idea to build islands out of clay, where I can look at them about this big, rotate it around, even light them, photograph them, and paint them, which can be visual development pieces for the movie, which can help sell the film. And I fell in love with it, absolutely fell in love with doing it. And as the idea for Wolfboy came about, I thought, let's give it a shot. Not as dimensional as what I did for Moana. I'll think of it more as, how would it look like on a page? And this is one of the sculptures. This is actually one for the cover. And you can see how when I rotate it, it kind of changes with the light and how the light hits it. And it's not very thick. It's very, very thin. The whole thing is about like that. Just thick enough to capture the light and capture all the texture. So I remember the minute I did one of these and I got it in Photoshop, I just fell in love. I just knew this is exactly what it was going to be. And it took a long, long time. Some of these illustrations took 3 to 4 months to do. Some longer, one of them took a year. That was because I did it about 5 times over to get it right. I think the next book, the next Wolfboy, will be a little bit quicker. It's a lot of experimentation in this one. The other one I get asked a lot is about being an artist and how do I become an artist? How do you make money being an artist? And these are difficult questions. The only real answer I can give to any kid, child, or adult who wants to be an artist and make a living doing it is that congratulations, because you picked an amazing choice for a career. Art is very connected to us as human beings. We are all artists to some degree, whether it's cooking or writing or singing or dancing, anything. We're artistic beings by nature, I believe. And the key to it, though, the real key to it, to having a career and a long career, is a true love for it. So whether you have to it's just part of your DNA. I joke with my wife that if for some reason, something happened and I couldn't draw anymore, I'd be in big trouble. I can barely change a light bulb. So that is just what I'm about. It's what I think about and dream about all the time. I love it. I love it to my core. And that's why I spend so much time doing it. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work, but if you love it, it doesn't feel like work. I'm trying to think of another question that I get asked a lot. Let me think here. Oh, yes. So the book is dedicated to my high school art teacher. And as anyone who writes a book knows, that there's a level of truth and part of their own story within these stories. It's where you draw inspiration from and where you can tell your truths. Sometimes it's very outward and blatant, and sometimes it's kind of more subtle within a story. And my high school art teacher, I have an incredible high school art teacher who I'm still very close to today. Her name is Miss Elam, and she was the high school art teacher in Starkville, Mississippi. And she happened to be the teacher of the year in Mississippi, and also won a Disney Award for high school art teacher of the country in the 90s. When I came to her class, I was ornery. I was very much like Wolfboy. I had spent most of my days in my room drawing, or I was fishing, catching bugs, but I just knew what I was doing all the time. Blah, blah, blah. And she wasn't just a teacher of art, she was a teacher of life. So she helped me look at things in a whole different way, she really helped me to have more empathy for people, to be a better listener, to think about other forms of artwork as artwork and not just how mine is the only way that's good. There's, like I mentioned before, there's so many ways to express yourself artistically. And she's very, very patient. So if I think about the characters in this book, there's Wolfboy, who's very erratic and all over the place. And I would say that was me in high school. And then there are the rabbits, who their personality arc is pretty level. They stay pretty level through the whole book. If you notice, they're with him the whole time. He's so upset, he doesn't even see them through the most of the book until they're right in front of his face. And they don't react to his grumpiness or his overexcitedness. They're just there. They're very steady, even people. And that's what she is to me still to this day. I think, and I hope everyone has someone like that in their life, a parent or a teacher, a brother, sister, a step parent, a grandparent. That's what the rabbits are. And I'm grateful for the rabbits of this world. I really am. They're very important in this book. And I think that's all the questions I can think of. So I hope you enjoyed my reading today. Again, if you want to purchase this book, there's a link to buy it through the website for the San Antonio Book Festival. And I hope you enjoy it. I put a lot of love into it. I truly hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much.